Hi guys, I don't know if you can hear me. I think I'm live, but I can't find our live. Aha, I found it. Okay, awesome. Hi guys, hello, hello. So great to see you. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Um, here. All right. So, how is everybody doing? I hope you guys are doing amazing. What I forgot to send is, let me grab, in case you guys want to participate on the Zoom, I'm going to pop the Zoom into a quick little message. And that way you can join me here if you want to. Or you can just watch on YouTube. It's great either way. Let me just open this up and find it for us. How's everybody doing? Put in the chat how you guys are. How is your week? Are you guys enjoying? Today is Easter, if you guys celebrate that. So a lot of people are celebrating this holiday, spending time with family. I'm about to go on an amazing little walk in the forest. I found the most beautiful, magical cypress forest the other day, and I'm so excited to go there to kind of just bathe in the forest. And yeah, so we have a lot of things to talk about this week. So we don't have that much time. I'm going to jump into the main topics of key questions that you guys have asked me. And I love your questions. So please put your questions in capital letters. It's going to be such a joy to answer your questions. And I love that you guys are doing the internal work and finding these questions, because sometimes it's really hard um, to even have questions. You don't know what to ask or how to ask. So let me just give me just 1 minute so that I can find this email that I want to send. My assistant is out on vacation this weekend to celebrate. So I'm just going to pop it in for you guys here. And if you want to join me on the live, great. Okay. Okay, it's going out to all of you guys. So go ahead and pop on in if you want to. I do have a set of questions that I want to ask. Again, if you have questions that you want to add, put them in capital letters. I will try to get to them. I know that a lot of you guys, you have so many questions. I want to make sure I answer them. Okay, guys, so let's jump into it. First item of order that we have on the list here is about a question about free will. And this is a really, really interesting question. I really enjoyed this question, and I'm just going to read it. I'm convinced that we don't have free will, and no amount of effort can produce a change to karmic contracts. Many quantum physicists say that free will is a myth. Okay. So, first of all, I want to say that there is a difference between the concept of karmic contracts and free will. It's a interdependent things, but they're not the same. And they don't mean that if there is no free will or there is free will, karmic contracts can or can't be altered. because of the nature of this construct. Okay, so let's talk about that. What do we mean? On the deepest layer of everything, taking a look at the universe, taking a look at our participation in this co-creation, this holographic system, remember that this matrix, the matrix that we live in, it's a holographic construct. Okay, so it's a projection, and it's a projection that's being co-created by what we are experiencing, and primarily the subconscious mind. Okay, so in your mind, in the actual infinite field of potential, you're only drawing from that infinite field of potential a certain amount of information. Okay, and the amount of information that you're drawing from that infinite potential of all possibility is a small amount. It's a very small amount that you're pulling from. Why? And on top of it, that small amount is limited by the filters of perception that you have. Your filters of perception are your beliefs. They are, your limiting, your fears, ancestral programs. And then on an even deeper layer, they're collective fears, collective subconscious programs, collective symbolism, collective beliefs, all of which are participant in the creation of the matrix, right? So the holographic system of projection has an underlying, let's say, an algorithm to this matrix, which we participate, okay? And it's really interesting because everything that we see around us in this physical world, right? It's a physical form. It's this physical objects that are a projection of ourselves, actually, and we participate in the co-creation of those objects. The meaning and the form in which they take are all things that we are producing from that collective subconscious, trickled down to our subconscious core belief systems, trickle down to the filters through the symbology. And so the way that we perceive things, remember that there's many layers of that perception. And in order to see form come into its manifestation, it has to go through different layers. So the form that we see, it's designed from, first of all, it's designed from energy, it's designed from light, it's designed from symbols that we see certain symbols, these archetypal symbols, which are an under layer, an under structure from which we pull meaning, belief, and perception, right? So this is something that we have to take into account. And so in this construct, we are abiding by those architectures, right? Because they are architectural structures of belief and constructs of perception. And so that's so deeply ingrained in us that essentially, as I mentioned before, that really leads to the question, well, then, what is guiding my choices, right? Your choices, when you are unconscious, when you are unaware that you are infinite potential, is, see, the fact that you have free will or not doesn't negate the fact that you're infinite potential. But you yourself, unless you're aware that you are that infinite potential, that you are not this construct, that you are not these subconscious belief systems, that you're not the filters of perception, unless you become aware of that, you're going to be constantly repeating patterns. And all of these repetitive patterns are obviously, they have nothing to do with free will, which is why I mentioned to you that we don't have free will unless we realize we do, okay? And yet comes the argument, which this gentleman, Brent 444, says that the major physicists mentioned that there is no free will, and I believe that as well, but within a certain construct, because there's something that's missing from the understanding of these physicists, which is usually the cap. It's a limitation within their understanding. Okay, and then let me get to why and how that is. In my search and in my journeys in these higher dimensional planes, every single dimension up until the 24th, I've been to 44 dimensions. I've experienced explore. And that's just my humble, limited observation. But up until 44 dimensions that I have explored, each of them have their own constructs, their own laws, their own limitations per se. And limitations for us means something completely different than limitations in that 44th dimension. But essentially, utilizing that understanding that each of these dimensional planes, these constructs, have certain limitations, rules, structures, laws by which they operate, that would be the limitation of free will within each of those constructs. So you have free will up until it hits upon these limitations, upon the architecture of that structural construct that you're experiencing. And so from that perspective, we have no free will, right? Because um, the way that you look at these dimensions, they're not something outside of you. They're not something greater or larger than you. They are a part of you from which you're actually navigating those. And many of us are moving in and out of these dimensions constantly, even in dream time. We are experiencing these dimensional planes in ways that we can understand, right? So again, our limiting perception is based on our core beliefs. They're based on the laws of this universe that you're in, this construct. And they're all, and then that is limited. On top of that, it's limited by your filters of perception, which are the ancestral programs that you have not transcended yet. Those are your limitations. And so the deeper we go into this self-awareness and self-knowledge, the missing link is that when the human deprograms the limitations of their belief systems in the construct, because the other element is this: even though we're experiencing the physical nature of this dimension and we experience physicality here, that's not true for these other dimensions. In other dimensions, we don't experience physicality. We don't experience the contrast in the same way that we do here on this planet Earth. And so when you transcend, in a sense, the limitation, the perceived limitations of your physicality in this dimension, that's usually the point, the 0 point, in which you start to understand other potential dimensional constructs. You begin to understand the limitations of those constructs, and you begin to touch the possibility of having free will to choose. Okay, but as you can see, to access the free will, it requires a lot of deprogramming, a deconstructing of the limited filters of perception that you have in this construct. That's number one. Okay, but in the bigger picture, all of these dimensions that are operating through you, you're the operator, you're the one that's navigating, you're the navigator of these dimensional planes. It requires you to come into your 0 point. And that's a physics thing, right? It's a physical thing. It's an energetic, it's a bioelectrical thing. Because the more that you spin, the higher vibration you are, the more you're going to come into resonance with these higher dimensional planes in order for you to explore them. Whenever you're navigating dream state, your frequencies, your brainwave states are shifting and changing so that you can enter to even begin to experience those dimensional planes. And to be able to activate that kind of movement in your body requires certain mechanistic shifts in your body, right? That are producing higher vibrational frequency, that are clearing the body. It's something that we do naturally in dream state. But very few times do we recover the memory of those experiences. Okay, so the key is the awareness. And so the missing link would be that physicists, all of these physicists, and I love all of them. I've heard so many different perceptions of them. We can talk about all of those physicists some other time because it's a deeper topic, because their perceptions are profound. But somehow they have missing links that are in alignment to what we perceive when we train ourselves in the 0 point, which is the ability to begin to navigate these dimensional planes. And we realize a couple things. We realize that in the bigger picture, there's no free will because we are interdependent of these dimensional planes. We are extremely interdependent. It's all through us. It's all through the body. And as soon as we transcend the perception of the limitations that we have of the physical form, we can begin to explore them. Okay. And in every exploration, we will have a limitation that we need to go beyond. Again, this is moving away from a materialistic perception that everything is matter or this is the physical body. We only have free will if we know we have free will. And the access into that free will is the cultivation of the 0 point from which you begin to no longer abide simply by the laws of form, and you learn how to begin to move in a non-physical manner in other dimensional planes. But within each dimension, you're still going to need to abide by those laws, by those the architecture, by the constructs of those dimensional planes. And so in a sense, it kind of changes the concept of what free will really is. Free will is simply the awareness. It's the awareness that you are able to navigate any potential construct, okay? Honoring the laws of that construct, honoring meaning being aware of them, being aware that you have to navigate them, being aware of how you are experiencing those dimensional planes. So I also don't believe that we have free will in that bigger picture, but not in the sense that it's a limitation, in a sense that we as non-physical beings, as spiritual beings, actually have infinite potential that we can tap into. And that is something that does not require the body to navigate. So that's something that I think it's a missing link in their understanding of things. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this concept a little later, because it's really interesting to kind of dive into that topic in order for you to understand your power, your creative potential. Our creative potential is something that can affect multiple dimensions. And we've talked about this several times, that if you are disconnected from your ability to create, you're very limited from your creation. But if you tap into your ability to create, you can affect many dimensions, and you do affect many dimensions simultaneously. Okay. All right, guys. So let's talk about. So one last thing I want to mention about that is that um, on a psychological, emotional level, when it has to do with contracts, and this is going to segue into the next question. Um, we are abiding by the laws of the construct, and we're also abiding by our ancestral DNA, which is essentially the frequency that we have born into, that creates an architecture for the experiences that we can have on this planet, right? So everything that you are challenged with, everything that is your gifts, everything that all of these things that you have been born into with, and that you're repeating through your ancestral lineage, can be either your limitation or your liberation, your expansion into your gifts, depending on how you use that information. If you're unconscious and in dormant state, again, you don't have access to free will. You're not able to. You're simply just repeating over and over again whatever has been repeated in your lineage. So again, the awareness is the key. Your awareness of that repetition is what will break that ancestral pattern. Breaking contracts is the breaking of ancestral patterns. Okay, so this is synonymous, right? Breaking ancestral contracts is synonymous to ending patterns, ancestral patterns. And these are subconscious patterns that you're holding on to. These are emotional belief systems. These are core behaviors that you repeat, right? Generation and generation, repeating the same program over and over again. And these kinds of patterns are limiting you from your potential creation, because you can't see beyond that. It creates emotions of fear, limitation, contraction, shame, all these subconscious programs that you might be having in the layers of your belief system limit your creation, obviously. So these are things that once you begin to understand what it is to break karmic contracts, which is to end these programs, you can identify what these programs are simply by looking at the emotions that you've been feeling the past 24 hours, right? So just example, past 24 hours, you start feeling emotions of unworthiness or shame or guilt. And then it goes back to a mother, right? A critical mother. speaking and judging certain things. And so you begin to kind of observe that, and you're like, okay, well, what is this trigger emotion of shame? Well, it turns out it's her shame, right? She feels shameful. That's why she speaks this way. And so you begin to notice how shame has formed limitation, like to the point where she was not able to rise in her life or do anything, right? That she feels is of value. And then other members of the family not able to do the same. And generations down the bloodline, every single woman down the bloodline is being constricted, disconnected from their divine potential, divine creation because of those limiting belief systems. And so the next generation, which in this case would be me or my children, the moment that they begin to realize the alchemization of that shame immediately lifts that limitation. And remember that it's connected to timelines, because as soon as you shift the emotion from, let's say, the shame or the guilt or the unworthiness to, your power, your creation, your value, you begin to value your creations. Now you begin to move and generate this co-creative energy. And that in itself is the breaking of the contract. What happens is that your resonance to the bloodline starts to change. And this is really important when we talk about incarnation and reincarnation, right? Because if we keep repeating the ancestral programs as a soul, okay, it's not that you're punishing yourself by coming into a traumatic bloodline, for example, okay? In the bigger picture, this is a tiny little element of an experience that you've chosen to take in your life. You've chosen the experience of breaking away from limitation, breaking away from shame, breaking away from judgment. You've chosen that potential experience in your life. And that changes your everything. It changes biologically. It begins to shift how you process biochemicals in your body, the responses to triggers that are around you, responses to fear, thoughts, inspirations that might be limited. These are biochemical responses that are creating emotions. They're triggered by emotions, and you output certain emotions, and those emotions are bioelectrical engines of creation. So when you begin to realize that, that shift is a shift of frequency, and your overall vibrational signature begins to change. And so the more you change your frequency out of resonance from your birth bloodline, this begins to change by the time you reach death, right? The more you're able to align with the 0 point, the more you're able to align with harmonic order, natural order, love, right? Because all of these other emotions are the resistance of love. They're the resistance of wholeness, the resistance of authenticity, of expansiveness. And so that resistance is a blockage of chi, right? It's a blockage of energy, of life force. And so the blockage of that life force through your system is a blockage of health. It's a blockage of inspiration, vitality, healing, co-creation, even procreation, even the creation of life. As we create, more and more everything. It can be your artistic endeavors, your, businesses, the service, the healings that you do to humans here and even in the earth. Remember that our actions are deeply connected to the planet Earth. So even in how you walk this planet, whether it's something that's healing or destructive for the planet, is affected. So right now you have contractual agreements with the earth, you have contractual agreements with yourself, you have contractual agreements with your bloodline, like all of your ancestors, okay? And you're going to understand what your contractual agreements are based on the archetypes that you most are identified with in this lifetime, because each of you is moving through different archetypes, different phases of your life. It's always a cyclical pattern. And it's also a cyclical pattern in your ancestral lineage, okay? So when you start transcending the archetype, the overarching archetype on your family bloodline, now you're going to enter into another archetype. And in your next slide, you may enter another kind of soul group, another group of beings that are experiencing some other level, another perspective of something. This is pure choice. in that sense, you have that free will, and that transcends physics construct, these all the best physics of this planet that are looking at things from this other kind of perception, right? Even if they look at the holographic perception, the element that's missing is that there is a self-organizing intelligence that goes beyond just the concept of free will as a result of natural material systems, right? Or even energetic systems. This is a self-organizing intelligence of consciousness that is something that we are just learning about. And so the beauty of the human experience is that from that perspective, you can learn to experience and create more. And your siblings, your friends, your partners are another bloodline that's in resonance to yours. So now let's talk about contractual agreements. Let's pull in the element of contractual agreements, right? So you start to break these karmic contracts. Karma is simply cause and effect. That's all, okay? Doesn't mean punishment at all, because none of your experiences are meant to punish you. There's no such thing as that. Even though in this universe things are moving towards entropy, okay, on one side of it, things are moving towards entropy. In the bigger picture of things, we are operating by a self-organizing system, okay? And that order is way too vast for us to understand. Even when you get up to the 44th dimension, things start to look so abstract. Your brain cannot wrap itself around that complexity, and you don't have to. It's not necessary, because it's not going to affect what you need to do here in this human experience. So grounding this understanding into the physical body and your human experience is extremely important, and it's the only thing that matters right now. Because as soon as you begin to understand that these experiential agreements are things that you choose, but the thing is that your perception of choosing has to change. A lot of you think of karma as suffering and self-imposed pain, or pain that's imposed by a higher power or something like this. In reality, it's all about experience purely, okay? So in that construct, there is no good and bad. So your soul, your higher self, doesn't look at your life experiences as something good or bad or terrible or awful or painful. This is your choice, okay? But this is a problem for a lot of new age concepts and people that want to spiritually bypass through that understanding, because there's a missing link. And it's not because it's a bad people doing bad things or just ignorance. It's just that a misunderstanding and a missing piece that's missing, right? Because we direct the co-creation of our life experience, and oftentimes your perception is so limited in your current life that you may not understand the value of the experience that you're going through till later, right? And it's important that you do, which is why introspection is the absolute foundation to all understanding. Forget spiritual understanding, just understanding as a soul connected to a human body and a human experience. To me, that's the real spirituality, right? This concept of spirit navigating the human world. That's what we want to understand. We want to understand the mechanics of the spirit navigating the physical. And so we are bound to certain experiences because we haven't allowed ourselves to experience something beyond what we have. So let's take the example of abuse, right? And so let's say that we keep attracting violent partners and people that are abusive in our lives, and we find it everywhere. It's everywhere. But it requires introspection to begin to observe the patterns. Okay, and this is very interesting because the certain mechanics of victimization, we tend to kind of go into victim mode and say, my goodness, we're completely powerless. We have no free will. We just keep cycling through this constant pain and suffering. And I see nothing but pain and suffering in this world, right? And so, first of all, there is no absolutes. There's no absolutes. Okay, so if something I say sounds like an absolute, it's not an absolute at all. Because there's always another layer. Again, it's this incredible interdependency that is each time more vast than the prior layer of perception. Okay, so the same goes for our human experience. And if our human experience is completely attached to what we have known and what we have been taught, you might have been taught to be a victim, or that a victim is valuable, a victim is a survival mechanism, a victim is going to deserve some kind of value sometime. And religion is very, very keen in utilizing that perception to manipulate you into submission of your power, submission of your free will, primarily, submission of your creative potential. And of course, organized religions mostly work in the idea that the power and the intelligence is something that is outside of you, unreachable, or very difficult to achieve and attain in this lifetime. Even some Buddhist constructs believe that, right? That it takes many lifetimes to reach that level of awareness. There's always this idea that is something that is very far and away from you and not accessible. And that may or may not be true depending on you. Again, it depends on you, because you are a very profound creative healer. You are very profound creative. Your creative potential is so incredible. It just requires you to deprogram the things that are limiting that perception. So in this case, we want to deprogram, and we have to unpack the programs of victimization, because somewhere inside of us, there is a part that believes that there's a value to this role that we're playing of someone being abused by another. And this is a really hard topic because it's something close to my heart. It's not, I don't say this lightly, it's not to shift blame on anyone. That's not what we're talking about, just to be clear. It's about the dynamics of co-creation, okay? Because we attract things by resonance, okay? So whatever we believe in about ourselves and about others, it becomes a frequency that is a magnet to those exact repetition of that experience because you believe that. So it's, the funny thing is that it's the same energy and it's the same core root belief for the victim and the abuser. That's the thing. It's the same. So I might be the abuser, and the abusers, they have a narrative that they are victims of the world, right? So they have to impose this power. They have to impose pain. They have to do whatever it takes to control someone, something, controlling. What these two, the abuser and the abused, have in common is a narrative for control, right? A desperate reach for control, which they feel they don't have as the victim, and the abuser, a desperate need to continue to have control at all costs, right? So as you can see, this isn't a dance of perceptions that is being held. And this is one of the most obvious, seemingly obvious examples of these kinds of experiential agreements. These two souls have agreed. They believe the same thing. So they experience, and because in this universe, it is the father, mother that unifies in the alchemical marriage to provide the third, right? Which is the experience. The third is the experience. So these two individuals come into this alchemical experiential marriage to experience learning all sides of this until one of them wakes up consciousness and learns how to leave that dynamic, leave that perception, leave that exchange of emotions. So, and so I'm just going to talk about contractual agreements, okay? Because we can talk about many other layers, which are very important to talk about this. I'm oversimplifying this very complex issue for the purpose of explaining experiential contracts. I want to be very clear about that because there's a lot of nuances that need to be understood about emotions, about power plays and dynamics and co-creations, and on the spiritual level, the souls that unite to have this experience. You have a lot of karma, you have a lot of cause and effect, a lot of things that happen before that in order for these two souls to meet in this lifetime. Okay, so you have an entire bloodlines that have united to experience this. It's never about just the two people. And this is true with all relationships, all families, all relationships that we have, which brings you to the idea that we have no free will, right? It's a way to understand that layer of that concept of free will. The person that recognizes and becomes aware of the pattern can change their experience. And the breaking of karmic contracts would be to change your core belief. So we want to find all the ego selves, whether you're the abuser or the victim, you need to find all the core beliefs that you have within you that feed into this energetic dynamic, emotionally, physically, mentally, energetically. And then, you can start to look, because usually what will happen is that you're going to see you have many past lives with this being in that same way, okay? With him and with other beings that you keep repeating the same program. So it's really interesting because contractual agreements, you're going to find that you repeat this same dynamic, the same role, and you've more than likely been the abuser in other lifetimes because because everything is balanced. Everything is balanced. See, this is why I strongly believe that everything is operating by a higher order, okay? Because we are always experiencing a contrast or an opposite of something that we've experienced. And it can be in another lifetime that you are the abuser to that person or to another person in their family. And, you play these roles. So in this lifetime, you're experiencing the other side of that. Okay. But it's the same thing. You guys still have the same core belief that has to be alchemized. This is super important. So the alchemization of these experiences would be to begin to neutralize these limiting core beliefs, okay? And the more that we're able to alchemize them, to shift out of those, limiting belief systems, is to create a new belief system. And that's why the 0 point is the key, okay? Because the 0 point will liberate you from creating more karma, as they say, more cause and effect that is imposing upon this suffering and experiences of suffering. When we run energy and we break karmic contracts with our crown, that's precisely what we're doing. So in the karmic contract room, you have all the agreements, all the contractual agreements that you have created in order to learn and experience something. Okay, it's experience. And I want to be clear that I always tend not to use the word learn because it's this idea that, we've punished ourselves, that we have to acquire knowledge. And it's not about acquiring knowledge only. Okay, it's about experience, which is a multidimensional thing. What is shifting is this whole infinite potential is just simply experiencing through many different filters of something. And your body, you're using your body to do that. Okay, this physical body. So we want to understand what the contractual agreement is, break the resonant subconscious core belief system so that we can start to come out of resonance. And that's usually when things start to change, right? Opportunities begin to arise. We get opportunities to move out of that place. You know, something happens to the partner, you know, they start having a harder time doing what they want to do in this environment. Things just start to crumble, fall away, change. And the invitation is that, and those of you that have chosen these experiences, you know, um, usually these are older souls that have a lot of experience. Okay, so you don't usually come into that kind of experience when you don't know anything. You come into those experiences when you know a lot and you've done a lot, you've experienced a lot, because it requires you to alchemize that in the thick of that emotion. So you have to break the illusion of the physical, of this physical realm, of this physical construct, and, you know, allow yourself to reveal yourself for who you are in all of that. And that's one of the hardest experiences, right? To break free from these filters of perception in the middle of going through this environment. It's easy for monks, in a sense, not that it's easy to be a monk, but it's easy to be on a mountain, in a sense, and experience enlightenment, and you have full dedicated time to do that. But as the monks used to say, the real test is if you go back into society, and let's see how long you can last. How long do you hold your 0 point within your exchanges with humanity, right? It becomes a lot more difficult, because there is so much constant stimulation of your triggers that may have been dormant. And so in this experiential body, through the senses, you're experiencing all this potential human experience that you can immediately identify what are the contractual agreements that you have in your subconscious mind. So when we do the practice of running energy and observing your emotions over the past 24 hours, you can identify quickly what your triggers are. That's why your triggers are your gold. They are what will help you become free from the contractual agreements that you're holding. Okay. So I'm gonna leave it there because we need to jump into the meditation, but I saw your questions and we will continue to answer them as we move on. Don't forget that next week I have a super powerful workshop on manifestation. We're going to be talking about the biology of manifestation, and we're going to be talking about how do we actually tap into manifestation from biochemical, bioelectrical, and the DNA, right? So breaking free from all of these limitations, coming into the 0 point and utilizing the power of love to create, right? And so that includes all of our senses, and we're going to learn how does that function. So join me for that next week on the 11th, Saturday the 11th. And then the weekend after that, I'm so excited to share with you at the New Living Expo here in San Rafael, in the Bay Area. So if you are in the area or can somehow swing by, it would be amazing to see you guys. Please do join me there. It's an amazing conference held by my dear friend Neil Gower, who is the new owner of the New Living Expo. He was the owner of Portal to Ascension. So it's going to be amazing. And the people that he's bringing to speak there are just fantastic. So you're going to love them. And I'm sure it's going to be a blast. Lots of vendors, and it's always so much fun to go there. So I hope to see you there. Okay. So let's get into the meditation, guys. Go ahead and let yourself get nice and comfortable. Ground down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and let yourself come into a state of deep relaxation, reconnection with your body. It's alert, attention in the present moment. Go ahead and let yourself see your bubble around your body completely intact. Fill your space, your environment with gold life force. Create an energetic cord that connects your body all the way down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and visualize pulling gold energy, earth energy up into the core of your body, creating a vortex of energy at your center core. Breathing. Remember that the air, the oxygen you breathe around you, it's life force that you can absorb into the body. Go ahead and bring cosmic energy down from the crown of your head, combining with the green earth energy at the center core. And as you mix green and gold energy, it's pulling in your field, picking up all the debris inside of your center core. Go ahead and take 10% of that back down to the center of the earth. And you're going to focus on clearing your energy body. You're going to take 80% of that combination up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your bubble. You're going to take that final 10% of green and gold energy, absorb it into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cells of the body. Go ahead and heal your body. Come into a state of love, compassion for your body. You're going to begin to clean your energetic body from front to back, side to side, clearing all the debris that you see in your field. You're going to come into reading state as you shrink the root chakra, the sacral, the solar, double-sided vortex, front and back. Breathe deeply. Allow yourself to begin to open your heart chakra, your throat, your third eye, as you come into reading state. Come into your crown. You're going to align your higher self with the vibrational frequency of healing of your soul at this time. It's called your creative color. And if you know your creative color, go ahead and put that up. If you haven't identified your creative color, you can always work with me one-on-one to identify what that is based on your alchemization process. And if not, you can fill it with gold light. Allow yourself to see your energetic body all around you, front, back, side to side, top to bottom. And you're going to use your crown light to dissolve all the blockages you see. So blockages are going to be dark spots in your entire aura that you can't see. They're going to be symbols, forms, objects, cords that are in the body. If your bubble looks like it's only halfway shielded, take a look at that part that is open, and that would be a block that is maintaining the field open in that area. So you're going to use your crown to dissolve whatever is there, wherever you might identify openings in your field. Go ahead and do that as you scan your field. You can visualize a giant vacuum at the base of your body, absorbing all of that out of your field. Just send it all down to the center of the earth. Some things you might want to send up into the upper channel. Everything is transmuted into unconditional love. We are just redirecting these densities out of the body so that they can transmute and move. Remember that energy is never destroyed. It is only alchemized, redirected, transformed. And so you want to just gently allow that energy to leave your space. Excellent. Now that you've cleaned your space, we're going to go deeper. As you run cosmic and earth energies through the 3 dimensions of the body, I want you to begin to observe yourself over the past 24 hours. And I want you to notice what is the strongest trigger that has come up for you in the past 24 hours. Take a look. As soon as you identify that emotion, I want you to notice your body. You're going to shift your attention to your body. What part of your body contracts the most when you feel this emotion? Take your attention to that part of the body. Be absolutely present with that part of the body and allow yourself to name out the emotions that are there in that sensation in that part of the body. Name it out. Allow yourself to be absolutely present with the emotions that come up. Name them out. Allow yourself to name out those emotions, identifying which one is the strongest. And go ahead and allow yourself to once again scan your body to see what part of your body tenses up when you feel this emotion. Just notice. Be absolutely present with this new part of your body. And as you identify that emotion, I want you to just observe really quickly, how familiar are you with this emotion? I want you to scan and go back to the last time that you felt this emotion. This emotion was triggered within you. Take a look. Breathing. Be sure to stay grounded. Be aware of your first three chakras being closed. Even though we're going deep into the emotional body, we want to maintain a 0 point and we want to stay in the observer so that we can get the information that we need instead of getting stuck in the feeling and the stories of the experiences. We're just observing the information, which is what they're for. And take yourself back to the very first time in your life that you felt this experience. Go all the way back before you experience this emotion, the first time in your life. Take yourself back to that very first time. And as you're absolutely present with that memory, be completely aware of who is experiencing that emotion. Is it you or someone else? Did you take on someone else's emotion, or is this purely you, your emotion coming from you? Take a look. you begin to observe this dynamic of this emotion, take a look at what is it that you need in order to not feel this. Take a look. What would it be that you need? See if you can recognize that, if you even know what it would be to alchemize this emotion. Take a look. And if it isn't yours, what part of it is yours? Allow yourself to see all the fractals of yourself that have repeated the same pattern throughout your life. And I want you to infuse them with exactly what they need in that moment. But then compassionately feel exactly what you need to feel in order to alchemize this. If you need more love, fill your body with love. If you need more peace, if you need connection, if you need communication, if you need truth, if you need to release control, if you need connection to your divine, to your intuition. As you see all the parts of yourself transmuting, illuminating, shifting, you're just observing and learning from everything that you see. I want you to fill your body with those emotions that are healing and productive for you at this time. Again, this is having understood clearly how we reach this emotion is by the alchemy of this prior belief. Okay? So it emerges naturally from you by a deep understanding that cannot be faked or replicated or just manufactured. This is something that you are seeing clearly within yourself. That entire process creates new neural pathways, new connections within the body, the mind, and the field, timelines. Allow yourself to see how your life can open up by making these internal shifts of your programs, your understanding, your perceptions. Go ahead and see all your fractals merging into one self to begin to observe a fractal of your whole self. How do you look? Take a look at yourself. What's different with you? Allow yourself to integrate that part of you within your body. And what you most likely will be feeling is a deep peace. This peace is so specific to your life experience. It is the alchemization of something that caused major turmoil for you in the past 24 hours that you've been able to shift. So this is the real power. This is the real free will that you have in your life, is to choose your perception and to co-create your experience within the constructs. And you can do this in as many constructs as you please, as you prepare yourself to reach and to observe. In this way, because the purpose is pure experience, you are always doing exactly what you're designed to do. And your potential is infinite. Go ahead and allow yourself to integrate all these fractals, letting go of your past. And we're going to clean the chakra system. You're going to start at the root chakra at the base of the spine, spin it as fast as possible, releasing all of the core beliefs that you might have in your root about not being safe, not having stability. Go up into the sacral, spinning it as fast as possible. Release all the programs about relationships, exchanges that are balanced, relationships that come from fear, exchanges that are imbalanced. For whatever reason you might be imbalancing your exchanges, take a look and clear those out of your sacral chakra. You're going to go up into the heart, into the solar plexus, clearing out all the programs of heavy emotions that haven't been processed. Disempowerment, hopelessness, fears, anxieties, doubts, the lack of connection to your divine, or the fear of the connection to the divine. It starts with the integration of your lower dantian. Go ahead and go up into the heart chakra, spinning and clearing all the programs of unworthiness, fear of connection, fear of coherence, fear of love, receiving or giving. I'm going to go up into your throat, clearing out the programs of divine expression of your truth, fearlessly, speaking in a harmonious manner. Go up into the third eye, the third eye, managing the area of your intuition, your connection to your divine, listening to your divine, heeding the messages that come to you. And you're going to go up into your crown, releasing all the limiting belief systems about your creation, about your free will, about your ability to manifest into the physical. Clear it out. So all your chakras are back open and in a balanced state. So you went from looking like a martini glass to looking like a straight column, a rainbow column, where all your bodies are balanced now. So your perception will also be balanced. Your emotions will also be balanced. Your energy is balanced. Going up to the 8th, the 9th, 10th. And I want you to see a room full of karmic contracts. You're going to go back down to the 7th. You're going to shine the 7th on top of all these karmic contracts and dissolve them from that room until it's empty. And you're going to fill that room with your creative color of your crown. You're going to continue moving on to the 12th chakra, illuminating the 12th, the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And above you is a powerful white light of source. Go ahead and bring that white source down into your body, through the heart, down to the perineum, into the center of the earth. Go ahead and see your grounding cord, your protective field, your center cord. And as you open your eyes, come back into the room, and you're going to continue to see your grounding cord and all of your energy system. Welcome back, everybody. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. As always, it was an honor to be here with you. I hope you enjoy today with your family, whatever you're doing, go into nature. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Oh, my love. Thank you for your amazing questions. And I will answer, I'm going to keep track of all your questions and answer them next time as well. So please do stay tuned for that. And I'm excited to connect. Love you.